All right, welcome guys. Today what we're going to be doing is finishing up our BF110E from Airfix. This is the Trop pattern. Obviously I have the final product here. So we're going to be doing a little bit of building. We have the landing gear that we have to assemble that we left off the first part of the kit, really just to make masking and everything like that easier during the painting process. Then we're going to be doing some painting, decal application, and only one layer of weathering. So I don't have any other kit in this kind of, what is this, Libya paint scheme, this kind of desert North African paint scheme. So I really wanted to let the paint job on this kit be the focal point instead of the weathering and things like that. So we're going to keep it really, really simple. It was a fun kit. It's an easy kit. It's a quick kit. So kind of match the weathering to that as well, but let's flip it over and let's see how we got there. All right, so starting off with our Tamiya Fine Surface Primer. Now, I love this as a primer, especially for on a 172 aircraft. Our details are really, really small, they're shallow, however you want to phrase it. So we don't want too much paint and too much primer really clogging these up. It really shows on the weathering stage, which unfortunately is at the end, but really, really nice primer if you haven't used it. I guess the only downside is it is a spray can, so you need to be able to get outside or have it in a nicely ventilated room. Then what I did is I pre-painted this section on the tail, the engines, and the wingtips white. Basically everywhere that you see masking tape, I just used a Tamiya flat white under that, gave that time to really set up and cure so I didn't pull it off with the masking tape, and then applied the RLM 78, which is the this bluish gray color that will be the underside of the plane. I also have the wheel wells where the landing gear is going to go. I have that taped off as well. And then we're going to leave all of that masking on and come back with our RLM, that sand gelb. Both of the paints are the Atom Ammo by MIG, the new Ammo by MIG paints, and I've brush painted them before on the ME410A, and they brush painted really, really well. I will say they have airbrushed even better, which yes, I know airbrush is typically better, but the point is that they're really, really nice. And I have had one or two small issues with the paint kind of getting a little bit scaly. It happened in one small part of this kit. Now I'm not sure if that is a issue with the paint, putting our clear coats over it, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So obviously sprayed the top with the sand gelb color, and I just masked off, in addition to obviously the white, just masked off anywhere that we might get some paint on. I didn't go too crazy because I did spray, from the top down, like vertically, to try to get, that really nice line in the wing, and it worked really, really well. As you can see, I didn't mask the wing or anything, and we just had a perfect line. I was able to, I guess, be patient and get that line there. So really, really happy with the way that turned out. And then obviously, we masked the bombs and things like that because we didn't want anything to get on those. We had to mask the side and the pieces of the tail. Now, I like to take the masking tape off pretty soon. I don't really let it sit on there very, very long, so that's why I got the glove on. I haven't been a glove guy for a long time, but I figured I'd avoid the comments on YouTube about not wearing a glove, so I went out and bought some cheap gloves. And then, of course, a phenomenal feeling when you take off the masking tape and you have the perfect section of white in the back, as well as the blue kind of orange separation on the side came out really, really well. and I just bent the masking tape. I didn't cut it. I just eyed it out. This is a $15 kit after all, so don't want to rush through it, but I also, treated it as such at times. So really happy with the way the paint came out though, and I can't say enough how good the Atom paints were. Very beginner / lazy friendly. And what I mean by that is you don't really have to build it up in layers. I'm sure you could, and maybe it would look better, but kind of just blasted it on and like it was a spray paint almost. So very similar to the Tamiya paints in that regard, but they have a nice self-leveling ability. They dry in like 10 minutes and you can mask them really, really quickly and it doesn't pull any paint up. At least I haven't had those issues yet. One really interesting, um, wasn't really a problem, but on the left and right wings, if you saw at the beginning, I had white painted on them and then painted the orange over. You can see it is clearly, it's not only a different color, but it did not sit over the Tamiya paint very well. Once we did some clear coats, and there's going to be decals or decals on those anyways, so it ended up that you can't see it in the finished model, but just an interesting thing, as because I'm going to use these paints. I got the Luftwaffe, 12 pack of paints or whatever from Adam, but kind of noted that in my brain that I don't want to, because a lot of times I'll prime with NATO black. I might be pretty hesitant to do that or suggest that just based on the reaction. I know they're both acrylic. One's, alcohol based. Ammo by Mig's water based. I'm assuming like their old paints. I haven't even looked. But yeah, I don't know. Something to keep in mind. You can see it there at that angle. But it's not just the difference of color. It looked like it had been baking in the sun for 10 years. Like kind of how car paint starts to break down in the sun. But anyways, we have a decent amount of detail painting here. The engines, the propellers, the end of the propellers, and then the little machine gun sticking out the front. I actually think we went the flak cannons, but you get the point. And then we have to build up the landing gear. And this is always a tough process because the vehicle, the airplane, whatever, is fully painted. We don't want to get glue everywhere. And you could definitely use, clear part glue, but at the same time, you want to make sure it's strong enough. So I always use the kind of old school Tamiya cement, the one in the orange bottle there, instead of the extra thin. I just think it works on painted parts. Not that the extra thin doesn't work on painted parts, but no glue works all that well on painted parts, except that Tamiya old school glue seems to really do the trick. Especially, yes, we want the landing gear to be strong, but it doesn't need to be, as strong as maybe an upper lower hole that are pulling apart kind of thing. A lot of small pieces on this landing gear, and the fit was, it was better than $15 kit, but it wasn't phenomenal. It didn't fall together, but we got it painted up. We got the ends of the wings painted, and really, really nice use of. If you watch the channel, I love those AK paint markers. The yellow one, the trainer yellow, I forget what it's called, but it's yellow. That's really, really useful. Yes, you have to put multiple layers over the black, and you could do it before if you were smarter than me, but it makes painting things like the propeller tips super, super easy, and you can do it while you are, working on other parts of the kit. Then we're going to hit the model with TS. Actually, we didn't use TS13. We used the Mr. Hobby. It's a water-based semi-gloss. I couldn't get the gloss coat because it was all sold out online, so I went semi-gloss and figured, hey, we'll try it out. The reason I did that, one, use the gloss coat to prevent silvering, yes, whatever. But on the ME410A that I brush painted, I did the final layer after decals in TS80, as I really do on every model. And I can't remember for the life of me when the paint started to get kind of scaly. So I wanted to see if maybe it's the TS is just too strong for Ammo by Mig's paint. I got it in one small area on the underside of this plane. Now, I did make sure, because I've had Airfix, the cartograph decals, get completely eaten by Mark Fit and the TS80 before. So I did go really, really light and just, built it up in like 3 or 4 super light coats, but still ended up with that problem a little bit. And I didn't notice it until the end, and I was looking and looking, so I can only imagine that it is the TS80, but we'll have to do a little bit kind of more investigation on that, because that's a shame, because I really, really like these paints, and I really, really like the TS80 and the TS13. But the cartograph decals are super, super nice, especially if you use Tamiya decals or like the Tacom decals. Uh, I, I've grown to understand what people mean. These are really nice. The problem, as you can see here, is we have like a billion. Now, all of those tiny little numbers on the bottom, 34, 36, 37, I did not put those on. I put, let's call it 80 to 90% of these decals on there. And it's for 2 reasons. One, that's incredibly tedious, and I'm not going to be looking at the underside of this plane ever. It's going to sit on a shelf, and, I'm not going to be like, oh, did I put that tiny decal on? The second problem, though, is those decals just float, and they have a really bad tendency to float. Um, Even like a long time after you have, used a decal set like this. The reason I use Mark Fit on the big decals, in 2 layers of it started to eat at these cartograph decals. So maybe a little bit too strong. It did bend them into the panel lines really nice, but I use this small Ammo by Mig decal set, and then the forgetting the name, the Fix, just because the applicator brush is really, really small. So it's really perfect for the small decals, and the set ensures that when you use the decal fix, the second part, whatever it is, that the decals haven't moved around and that they won't move around, because obviously that product builds up a little bit and pools up a little bit. Then, as you just saw, we finished the decals and hit it with TS80 to seal those decals in. And now we remove our masking on the canopy, and we find that on the left side, I guess if you're flying the plane, the left side, depends when I keep spinning this, that it got a little bit hazy, and that is definitely from the clear coat slipping under the mask. This does happen with spray paint. The good news is, if you have one of these like 4,000 grit sanding sticks for clear parts, it won't fix it, perfectly. But I know it still looks hazy there. It is tremendously better, because when I first got it, you couldn't see at all on that side when I first took the tape off. So again, $15 kit. I'm not going to, fret about this for a long time, but did a decent amount of cleanup on it, and my hands started cramping, and so I said, let's paint the canopy and hope for the best. And ultimately, it looks really, really good. Definitely a slight mess up there. I kind of saw the masking tape starting to peel, but is what it is. Again, the kit looks, I think, really, really nice as a finished product, and my eyes don't go to that. Plus, I turned it the other way. Genius move. So when we have the canopy painted, I like to use, this is a common method, but use a toothpick because I don't think anyone in the world is going to be able to paint a canopy like this perfectly. Use a toothpick to clean up the paint. And now I always use a toothpick that has paint on it, just because if you press too hard, it will scratch the canopy. So just keep that in mind if you're using that trick. Finally, we're going to do the weathering. Now, we are only going to do one weathering step. As I said, I think in part one and at the beginning, I wanted the paint job of this kit to be kind of the main highlight. Also, like I've said 2 or 3 times now, $15 kit, not going to break my back on this one. I wanted to build this one for fun because I was doing, a couple other kits at the same time. I really wanted to build an aircraft, and I went to build my B-17, and that's when I found that I needed that additional part. So this, fit my needs perfectly. But again, simplicity with aircraft sometimes looks really, really good. So does a lot of weathering. I'm a fan of all of it, and that's the beautiful thing about modeling is you can do whatever you want. So we use this neutral wash. Again, I didn't want it to look, now obviously it looks heavier on the bottom just because of the color, which is fine because that color would get a little bit dirtier. But we use a neutral wash instead of like a black or a darker color, just because when you look at a plane, you don't actually really see panel lines at all. But I still wanted, it's cool, right? Watching the pin wash, go and flow around and everything, and it looks cool anyways. But it gives us that really nice patina, and there's no way, as pretty of a color as the sand gelb is in the 78 on the bottom are, there's no way a plane would have been this bright. So this is going to, especially with this white too, really all the colors on this plane need to be just toned down. In this grayed out kind of neutral wash, when we remove it with a Q-tip, I didn't use any thinner because I wanted to spread it, all over the vehicle, obviously in the panel lines, but I wanted to give it that kind of patinaed, washed out look, just a little bit, not really affecting, the color, any of the colors, but again, make it just look a little bit dirty. So it's like a little bit less of a toy because I just said, the colors are beautiful. These Ammo by Mig colors, truly. But looks a little bit like a toy, right? And I have no problem with it looking like a toy. They're all kind of toys to me. I find that a little bit funny, off subject, but when people are like, "Oh, these are models, not toys," I always imagine this is like my excuse to be an adult and still play with toys. But anyways, that's just how I look at it. So again, no thinner. I didn't let this sit as long as sometimes on the armor models and things. I'll let it sit overnight, the wash. I probably let this sit for about 30 minutes. So just enough time for some of that color to start setting in. Get a little bit of that thinner to start evaporating. And then I didn't use a brush once. I just used a couple Q-tips, cotton buds, whatever you want to call them, and try to just brush it in that kind of aerodynamic direction from front to back to give it that illusion of, yes, it's been flying, but again, just that patina kind of washed out look. There's definitely a lot more weathering you could do to this, right? Could do some chipping, things like that, but again, this is what I wanted to do with this kit, so that's what we did. And this is the final look once we get all of the wash off this kit. And at this point, it's still kind of setting. I'm going to let it set, another day or two at this point, just before I really start touching it, just to make sure, again, that it's, it's cured, the enamel wash. So Got a Ammo by MiG base, one of these scenic mats again, just to display aircraft. It is like $28, but I have been using them to build those little dioramas, and I think it makes it look a lot cooler. One for taking pictures or the end of the video to show you guys, whoever out there is watching, but also you can display them. One or two of these on a shelf. I have one for a tank and one for a plane now, and then you can kind of rotate things in and out, which is really nice. So super happy with the way that this kit came out, especially for, again, it's like a $15 to $18 kit. I forget exactly how much I paid. There were two price tags on it. Doesn't matter because both of those are very inexpensive when we're talking about models that can be $80. Some of them, I mean, are over 100. So yeah, small 172 scale aircraft. Not a crazy amount of detail, but this is a really fun kit. And if you were, I would say, not like a pure beginner, because there's a little bit of modeling effort that needs to be put in to make this kit look really nice, but um, it's a really good, like, hey, I'm a beginner, but I kind of want to get into that next tier. This is a really good kit for that. It's also a really good palette cleanser if you just need to build something. And there's not a lot of aircraft in this paint scheme. So really cool. And I don't believe, someone can tell me in the comments that I'm wrong, because I probably am, but I don't believe that I've seen a aircraft in this kind of scheme from any other model company. So makes it unique. It's cheap and easy, and really happy with it. I would recommend this product. This kit, I wouldn't build it if you're thinking you're gonna shake it out of the box and a model's gonna come out. But it's not like, oh, it's filled with flash and all this other stuff. So really fun kit, and really happy with the way it looks, because I have a lot of aircraft, again, in kind of those general paint schemes, and this one definitely stands out. I put this one right next to a mosquito, like, night fighter that I built, and I think it looks cool. So if you've made it this far, I would please ask you, if you haven't already, to like and subscribe to the channel. We will be doing many more model builds, reviews, you name it, we'll be doing it. But I thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you on the next video.